Let me jump in and show your profile before I get too far in front of everything here. This is not the normal flow of a demo, but
I'll throw curveballs at you.
I love it. I love it. I'm just letting it kind of go the direction it goes. So here's what we're measuring. You're going to see, I'm going to show you a couple of the profiles just so you have a comparison. You'll see that red line on each one of those profiles is in a different spot where yours is at. Okay, yours is here. What that is, this red line, the traits, let me back up a little bit and tell you why we get such a high level of accuracy. So we're at like a 95% test, retest, reliability and validity. So if somebody were to retake this, 5 years from now, they're going to have a 95% chance. They're going to fall within the same categories of these different traits. The reason we get that high level of accuracy is because it's a non-forced question test, free word association. There was 174 words and you chose whatever resonated with you. I didn't make you, pick out of 100 questions. And normally that's what happens with a personality test. You've got 100 questions. And so it's really easy to figure out in relation to everybody else who answered these 100 questions, where do you fall or where do you score? But when you give free word association, you get a higher level of accuracy because you're not forcing people to pick things that don't fit, but you're also not getting a comparable set of data, right? You're getting individual information from each person. And so what do you do when you have incongruent or different sets of data? Well, in mathematics, and what we'd always do is we put that on a bell curve. We put that on a bell curve and we divide the bell curve into standard units of deviation. And we break that standard units of deviation into three sigmas on each side of the bell curve. And so this red line, I'm doing a lot with my hands, but it represents this red line right here represents the middle of it's the mean. It's the 50% mark of the population. And that represents for you on your specific survey, that's the middle, that's the mean. That's what we're measuring against the rest of the population against that. And so every one of these dots represents one of the traits. The L is a separate trait, the I is a separate trait, and the E is a separate trait. So that's how we get the 7. But these these dots, we are measuring the distance from the middle, not where they're at on the scale. So in this red dot, you're not a 2. You are a half a point to the left of the middle. So 50% is here, you're to the left, which means you are less than in that particular trait. You're going to fall into the 34 percentile of that trait, less than on that side. If you go to the right, you're going to go up in that trait, 34 percentile. And this is the breakout of the standard units of deviation. The first breakout is in 34%, and that's everything from the line, and 2 points from the line is 34%. From there, you're going to go 14%, 2 more points from the line, 14%, and anything after that, 4 points or more, is going to be in the 2%. So on the right side, greater, left side, less than, and that's how we're measuring it. And so you'll see the line move, doesn't make a difference where it's at. We're just measuring distance from the line. All that kind of makes sense? Love it. Okay, that's a lot of talking, a lot of details, but it will help when we're reading multiple surveys to understand that, and it won't get confusing. The L and the I, completely separate from the red line. It is on a 1 through 10 scale. This is, I'll just tell you, this is high. We're considering that high, 1 through 10, and this is normal. There's no low on the I. So you're high on the L and normal on the I, and we'll talk about the E later. So let me jump into the traits. Any questions so far? Anything I need to clear
up? So regurgitating back, middle line, that's the median. Left goes to 0, right goes more toward 100.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep, that's it. Perfect. First dot that we're going to look at here is the A dot. We'll just kind of go sequence. It's not your strongest dot. It's not where you put most of your confidence or where you live, but it is sequential. It's something we definitely look at. The A dot for us represents autonomy. This is somebody's need to be in control of their own destiny. This is somebody's need to be in the front, need to have their own ideas. You represent somebody who I would say is more interdependent. You don't need to be in the front. You don't have to be the big head charge, leader. It doesn't have to be all your ideas. You are, I would use more words like supportive, collaborative, cooperative, interdependent. If leadership style, there's there's multiple kind of leaderships, but we would call this more servant leadership as opposed to personality leadership. I don't know if you've experienced both inside of different organizations, but sometimes you have big personalities and other times you have resourcers. We would call you a resourcer. You figure out what somebody needs and then you will empower them with that. You will say, you'll trust their vision. You understand what would be needed for them to accomplish that thing. Don't have to be your idea. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. It hits home. It's very faith driven for me. Like I let God take the realm kind of thing and just follow his path. Yeah.
There you go. Yes, you don't need to set that course. You can see the course and then set the path on the course. Now, a couple things about this. This is a couple things you even said. You didn't pick up on it. I did because it resonates with me. You said I'm taking some of the things that I've done in my past, some of the experience I have. This is a very experiential talk. This is not I have these theories. I have these hypotheses that I'm going to go test in the marketplace. That is not you. It is, I know these things work. I have experience. I've done it in the past. I can take that experience and apply it over here to this thing that I can show you how to do what I've done. That is the A dot, as opposed to the opposite being out here that says, I did this in another business. I have an idea that I could probably take that and apply this over here, and I think I could create a company. I'm going to go do that. That is not your style. That is not, you're not willing to take that risk on clients or other people until you have personally walked that path and feel good about you could do this again. You can draw on your past experience to make sure that what you're going to do is right by your clients going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's nice. Like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful brain. Like, your brain is wired like an engineer, honestly. It wants to bring order to chaos. You can look at somebody else's mess and tell them, this is kind of where you need to go in the steps. If you want to get there, here's the steps. But you're not the one who's going to come in and say, okay, your ladder's on the wrong building. You need to go this direction. Change everything and go that way. You're more of the guy that says, where you want to go? Great. I can tell you what you need to do to get there. But I'm not going to tell you how to go or where to go. That's up to you. You tell me where you want to go. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, great. I love that. So the reason I spent a little time on that 8 dot is because it's one of the things that really directs somebody's either need to push or need to create structure. And you are definitely a better integrator than you are driver. You're not going to outrun your coverage. You're going to make sure what you do is going to last. So this is A dot, super great in a consulting role. The B dot, what we're measuring there is social ability. And you were going to be in the 14th percentile of the people, 34th percentile actually. Yeah, 34. You're just more serious-minded. You're more strategic. You're more analytical. You're more resourceful. You're more factual. You're a little bit more skeptical. You're more reserved. You don't need to process everything verbally. You don't need to tell everybody what you're doing or get a bunch of consensus and get everybody on the same before you move. You can do the work because the work is what needs to be done, right? You can think methodically on something. You can focus on it and come up with a plan. You can detail out what the steps are. These are all very, very kind of less emotional traits, right? The opposite side of that is highly social. It's somebody like me. He's more emotional, more persuasive, more storytelling, less factual, more feeling, more intuitive, more going to get you excited. You're going to make a plan. I'm going to get you moving. You're going to, let's figure out where we're going first. You're a more ready, aim, fire. I'm a more ready, fire, aim. And there's nothing the matter with either one of those. There's no good or bad traits. There's no good or bad personality. It's just you're suited better to help somebody get to where they're going. I'm probably suited more to lead people where I want them to go. That's a more serious mind. I would say things like, you don't need cake in the break room to show up. You don't need to have a party to come to work. You can also work remotely. It's a great trait for being able to still accomplish the same things without having to have the social interaction around the office. Doesn't mean you don't like it, but just you don't need it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Anything so far that I've said that just doesn't seem to fit?
Nope, pretty accurate so far.
All right, cool. C dot, this is kind of one of these last 2 dots are where your superpowers are. It's where you probably have always excelled. The C dot and the D dot. The C dot is what we measure as pace or focus, patience, and you have the ability to create systems, create processes, sequential, methodical, deliberate, reliable. I don't know if I mentioned consistent, but you have a consistency of reputation, a high standard, a calming presence, a stability. Your ability in the top 34 to 14% of the population who can focus. You can stay on task, but you also get a lot of value over longevity, right? So the longer you're there, it's not just better at the job. And I will tell you this, I'm going to overstep maybe, but I also believe that in this particular profile, and I've seen it, that there's some profiles that get better at their job. Like, just the more they do, they're just going to get better. You get better at whatever you're doing, but you also get better in every other area. Like the longer you're there, your natural expression, like you get more proactive, you become more assertive with the plan, you will speak up when you think they're going the wrong direction, but you don't do it until you're ready. You don't jump right into that. But over time, that's why you can stay in the same industry and everybody will be like, man, he's a leader in the industry, he pushes the envelope. That's probably not the case. It's probably you have enough history and experience that you know what's coming and you can anticipate that, but you're not just making that off of a hypothetical risk. That's why over time you get better and better and better, not just at your job, but at consulting, at all of it. It's because history is where you were going to rely on to make good decisions going forward. I know that's a lot I said, but it's I've hired so many of these craftsmen, and knowing that, they're immediately going to management and training. Like, we put them directly, like we hire them and we start getting management training because we know that they're going to need to continue to move up as they get better. They can't just stay horizontal. Make sense?
Well, it does.
So this is a great engineer brain. The D dot, what we're measuring there is conformity. We're measuring your attention to details, and you're in the top 34% of the people who don't drop the ball. You deliver as promised, as expected. If you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. You give realistic timeframes and you deliver on them. You have a high standard, high moral, high ethic. There are some rules, there's some systems. We do this for effectiveness and efficiency. It's not, it's not because it's fun, it's because it's the right thing to do. I mean, these are all like very consistent statements, cornerstones of business, foundational integration level stuff. And you were in the top, 34% of the people that don't become judgmental about the details or the rules, right? You're not like yelling at people when they make mistakes, but you have a very high standard for yourself, and you just don't drop the ball. If you say you're going to do it, you typically do it. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, especially the leniency with other people. It's like they'll do it on their own pace, or they'll do it in their way, but as long as it gets done.
As long as it gets done. As long as it gets done. That's the thing. And so it's not, and you will hold yourself to your own standard, but you're also not going to hold everybody else to your standard. As long as they get it done, they don't have to do it your way, but get it done. And they lose credibility with you if they don't get it done. If they say they're going to do it and don't do it, because this part here is like your inner circle is really tight. Like once you're in the inner circle, you can stay in the inner circle. Just don't let you down. Just do what you say you're gonna do. Be consistent, and then you stay tight. But you don't trust it's not like everybody's in my, like I can't rely on everybody to not drop the ball. But it doesn't mean you're judgmental. All make sense?
Spot on.
Love it, love it. All right, so the L score we're measuring there is logic. Not like problem-solving logic, although clearly this, your brain solves problems. That's what you typically like to do is figure out solutions and steps and things. But what you also do is you process logically. You don't respond emotionally to things. And when I give you feedback, criticism, hey, that didn't work, your brain doesn't go, oh my gosh, that was not nice. It's not a personal dramatic response to a factual statement. Your brain goes, okay, what didn't work, and you'll kind of process that information effectively. The upside to that is it's non-dramatic, and that's what you want, especially in business. The downside can be it can be a little cold at times, right? If you got employees, clients that need a hug, you're gonna give them a list. You're like, here's the steps. They're like, I just want you to hear me, So sometimes we'll coach clients of like, be careful, especially if you're low social with a high logic. You're like, hey, the way I show my love to people is solving their problem. It's like giving them a plan. It's not to like hold their hand in problem. But sometimes that can get in the way with the logic. Certainly, I'd rather have that than the opposite, right? Where the sky's falling every time something goes wrong. It's dramatic. That's not you. And the I we're measuring there is ingenuity, and it's not creativity. A lot of people immediately think ingenuity is like creativity. It's mental inventiveness on like a separate plane. It's like Elon Musk or Walt Disney or like quirky, weird. You fall in the normal range like the rest of us. Plenty of ideas as needed, but we don't walk around like having to write our ideas in books because we're just, beautiful mind kind of people. And that just you follow in the normal range on that. Typically you would have a lot of ideas, but not necessarily on weird planes. So that's the kind of the top 6 traits that we measure. The 7th is this EU score. It's called an energy unit. And it has to do with sort of mental stamina. If you're working outside of your traits, how much ability do you have to morph your behaviors? And it's a great, indicator or just an idea, but we use it more as a comparison between the top and the bottom charts. This top chart is your hardwiring, your sort of 7 core traits. The bottom chart here is represents what you think you need to be, or kind of how you see you have to be successful in your specific role in that day, on that time. When we see, and I'll get into another time if you're ever interested of why we do this, but when we see a difference of more than 10 points between these 2 scores, about 95% of the time, that person is checked out. They're ready to kind of make a move. They're looking, they're going home searching for other jobs. It's not congruent with what they're currently doing. And sometimes it's a communication thing. Sometimes it's just, hey, we need to communicate with them what the job is again. We've gotten maybe a manager in there is communicating the wrong things, or maybe they're morphing because of a situation. So it just it's an amazing, and I won't get into all the details about how many times this has saved, major key players at my own companies. When I was building, my own business with this, I would use this twice a year. I'd have all my employees redo the job surveys, and I would just go through and pull out everybody that had a 10-point difference. And then I'd go through and just go, okay, lunch. Meredith, you set up lunch with this, lunch with that. And I would just go through and have lunch with every person that had a difference of 10 points. And sometimes it was nothing of more than just a conversation. Other times I'd ask specific questions. But I've never seen anything so powerful to give me an idea from their own mouth of like, why did you call me to have lunch? And I'll say, your EU score said that it was not working out. And they're like, man, that's crazy. Because I was not, yeah, you're right, I wasn't happy. And I'm like, well, we love you. We want to save you. What do we do? What happened? And then they'll just tell you. They'll be like, well, the sales managers now, like, we have to do all this CRM stuff. I'm not putting it in there. It's like super painful. I'm like, okay, don't leave. We can fix this problem. Like, this cost of you leaving is going to be $60,000 to replace you and recruit you and train you and the morale. And all we have to do is like put in one little thing here to keep you. Fine, let's do it. So it's this EU score that we used. it's the coolest indicator I've ever used, and any company I've ever had to identify people before they bounce. That's what we use. The job behaviors portion, though, and we won't go into it today. We use this as our ongoing sort of consulting with our clients. One of the best things we do is the ongoing portion. It's not just the hiring portion, but it's really like, how do we have cohesive teams? Where we misaligned with job duties and roles, and where we miscommunicating. And in this case, we would look and say, you're pretty much doing what you would have to do to kind of grow your startup. You're going from, all right, I got to go be a little bit more proactive. I've got to go out and get some business. I've got to set some of these systems up. I've got to like make some calls, and I've got to do that in a more out of the box salesy way. I mean, this profile becomes a little bit more salesy than this. This is more structured. This is more business development. But certainly what we see is that when you're in business development mode, it doesn't kill you. It's not like you hate it. If I threw you into like car sales and I said, hey, go be an outside salesman for a car salesman, we would see this totally modify, and then these two numbers would go completely out of whack, and you'd be like, I'm not a salesman. I don't sell stuff I don't believe in. And that would mess you up. So we would never do that. But when we see this, we realize, okay, you can do business development, but it's not killing you. Yeah. So that's the top and bottom charts and the seven traits. Any questions on what I said? Anything that didn't resonate, or anything that you want me to go deeper on?
So yeah, I mean, you said that this does align as far as the consulting. What other, I guess, positions have you seen craftsmen just fit perfectly into?
Anything engineering, anything in integrated roles, anything with big visionary, that high growth, that has infrastructure, behind it, like home service companies, construction companies, engineering firms. Really, we see craftsmen, specialists, scholars, tech experts. That this is the category you fall into. I'll show you from this standpoint. There's 4 categories: organizational, social, visionary, and research. You fall into that research category, which means it's more technically driven, it's more factual, it's certainly foundational, it's scalable. It's really good in consulting because it doesn't have to be. The problem is you get too high in the visionary categories. The onus becomes on them. Auto, right? So we're measuring autonomy in ADOT, and so autonomy, auto, self-driven, self-motivated, self-confident, self. If you are too high in the self and you get in the consulting role, what do you want to do? Push your ideas. You're constantly having to fight against saying, well, this is what I would do. And so as much as like, I'll tell you how to do your thing, I'm not fully in on it because actually it's not what I would do. So like, are you really motivated for that person? You can, if you can get that you understand your business is really about getting their business bigger, but that's hard for an A. That's really hard. For you, you can say, I don't need to own the vision. That's fine. You can own the vision. I'll tell you how to get there. And over time, you'll get more confident when you see the vision is wrong. You'll say, I can help you. Can I just say I don't know that it's the right direction? That won't come tomorrow necessarily, unless you're really confident and close to that person. But next year after that, people will feel like you're high A. They'll feel like it's you got to drive from your idea, but it's not. What you're now doing is you're saying, I have enough confidence in my experience to tell you that is the wrong direction. It doesn't always mean that you will say, this is where you got to go, but you'll get the confidence to say, before, like up until then, you're just going to say, I feel it's the wrong direction, but I can't say for sure. I haven't been down the road. I'm going to tell you how to get there. If it's the wrong direction, you get that historical and you're like, yeah, we've done this 3 times. The next time it comes up, you're going to say, no, you don't want to do that. And then they'll say, where do I want to go? You'll say, well, let's talk about it. You won't say, go here. And what I would do is I go, here's where you want to go. I don't know where they want to go. I'm a bad consultant in that regard. I've got to slow down and listen where you naturally slow down and listen to what they want. I've got to train myself to not have my own ideas, to think about their thoughts, what is it they need, and then help them get to that. You do that naturally. So consulting roles, architectural roles. If you had an interest in finance, you could be like in the controller role. I wouldn't want you to be a CFO. That would feel icky. Yeah, you would not like that. You could be in the controller role if that was something you were interested in. I mean, anything where it's like there's no company that would be like, we don't want to have somebody who is focused, methodical, non-dramatic, consistent, detailed. Every company wants that. So you kind of a fit. You would be accepted almost everywhere. Where it's going to fit best for you is in areas where you don't have to manage a bunch of people. You don't have to manage a bunch of untethered growth, like wildly expansive growth is not. It's too hard to structure. It just feels like a waste of time for you. Like we add them just as fast as we lose them. Why? And some people, they thrive in that. They don't care how many you lose, it's how many you add. And so you're better in the areas where you can help consistently stabilize and grow a company with reputation. Any of those areas, and anything you do, you're going to do well. Just don't find an area where they're expecting you to push the envelope more than what you feel comfortable.
Okay.